Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Murtwitnessone. And the reason I'm on a Monday is I have a special report. Excuse me. Now, as some of you may have known, that there was a rumor that there was supposed to be a pending decision today in a action that was filed by Randy Lynn Erickson in federal court. Now, that decision is still pending. However, what has happened is that Craig Sawyer has posted a lawsuit, or filed, I should say, a lawsuit in federal court against Randy Lynn Erickson. Now, this lawsuit is solely against Randy Lynn Erickson. No other individual at this time has been named in the lawsuit. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over this lawsuit point by point. Now, as it says in the header, we have Randy Lynn Erickson, plaintiff and counterclaim defendant, versus Craig Randall Sawyer, Robert Hammer, and Kim Picasio, defendants. And then we have Craig Randall Sawyer, counterclaim plaintiff. At this time, Kim Picasio and Mr. Hammer have not joined in this specific action. Now, as soon as this thing quits screwing around here, and we go to, this is about 20 pages long, so this is probably going to be a little bit of a long presentation. I'm going to try and get through this without making too many mistakes. And the complaint reads as follows. As and for his answer, counterclaims and demands for jury trial, defendant Craig Randall Sawyer admits, denies, and alleges as follows. First defense. 1. With respect to paragraph 1 of the complaint and request for injunction of plaintiff Randy Lynn Erickson, this answering defendant is without sufficient information or knowledge to admit or deny the allegations as pled, and therefore denies the same and puts Mrs. Erickson to her strictest proof. Number 2, with respect to paragraph 2 of the complaint, this answering defendant denies that federal jurisdiction exists due to any federal question, as the complaint fails to allege any federal question upon which a claim for relief may be had, but admits that diversity jurisdiction exists under 28 U.S.C. 1332 for purposes of the counterclaims of this answering defendant, as plaintiff is a citizen of Minnesota and no defendant is a citizen of the same state as plaintiff, and the matter controversy exceeds the sum or value of $75,000 exclusive of interest and costs. 3. With respect to paragraph 3, the complaint, this answering defendant denies all of the allegations set forth and puts Mrs. Erickson to her strictest proof. 4. With respect to paragraph 4 of the complaint, this answering defendant denies all of the allegations set forth and puts Mrs. Erickson to her strictest proof. 5. With respect to paragraph 5 of the complaint, this answering defendant denies that plaintiff is entitled to any relief, especially the relief of vacating harassment restraining orders issued by the Anoka County Court for the 10th Judicial District for the state of Minnesota, which are to be enforced by every police department and sheriff's office in the United States, including those affiliated with tribal and territorial lands under 18 U.S.C. 2265, full faith and credit of protective orders. Now we move on. Second defense. 6. Plaintiff's complaint fails to state a claim upon which relief may be granted. Third defense. Plaintiff's complaint should be dismissed for insufficient or improper service of process. Fourth defense. Plaintiff's claims for equitable relief are barred by 18 U.S.C., it's United States Court, 2265, full faith and credit of protective orders. Moving on. Fifth defense. Plaintiff claims for modifying or vacating an order for protection must be made in the county in which the order for protection was issued pursuant to Minnesota Statute 51AB.01 subdivision 11. I believe that's what that means. Sixth defense. Plaintiff's claim for equitable relief are barred due to her unclean hands. That's interesting. 11. Plaintiff's claims for relief may be barred by waiver, estoppel, and laches. Don't ask. Wherefore, defendant and counterclaim plaintiff Craig Randall Sawyer respectfully request that this court grant him the following relief. Dismiss plaintiff's complaint in its entirety with prejudice. B. Award this answering defendant his attorney's fees, costs, expenses, and disbursements incurred in the defense of this lawsuit. C. Award this answering defendant the relief requested in the counterclaim set forth separately below. D. Enter judgment in favor of this answering defendant and against plaintiff. And E. Award this answering defendant any other relief deemed just and equitable. And from that, I would assume that means punitive damages. Counterclaims. As for his counterclaims against plaintiff Randy Lynn Erickson, Ms. Erickson, defendant and counterclaimant Greg Sawyer, Mr. Sawyer, or counterclaimant, states and alleges as follows. Counterclaimant incorporates and realleges his answer in its entirety as if fully set forth herein. 2. Counterclaimant asserts claims for defamation per se in this action to seek money damages and equitable relief as a direct result of Ms. Erickson's conduct in conspiring and or participating in the plan to maliciously defame Mr. Sawyer on the internet and to cause serious injury to his reputation, businesses, and organization. Jurisdiction and venue. The United States District Court for the District of Columbia, District of Minnesota, has diversity jurisdiction over this action pursuant to 28 U.S.C. 1332 because the matter in controversy exceeds the sum or value of $75,000 exclusive of interest and cost, and plaintiff is a citizen of the state of Minnesota and no defendant is a city of the same state as plaintiff. 4. Venue is proper in the District of Minnesota because Mrs. Erickson resides in the state of Minnesota and she knowingly published defamatory statements over the internet about Mr. Sawyer, all the while knowing that the defamatory statements would be published over the internet and reach some listeners/viewers in the state of Minnesota and virtually every other state in the United States of America. Further, upon information and belief, Mrs. Erickson continuously and deliberately exploited access to the Minnesota market to promote their messages and to solicit, obtain funding through their internet broadcasts from listeners, viewers in the state of Minnesota and virtually every other state in the United States of America. See Keaton versus Hustler Magazine, 45 U.S. 770-780 through 781, 1984. The parties. Counterclaimant realleges and incorporates by reference the preceding paragraphs as fully set herein. 6. Defendant and counterclaimant Craig Sawyer is a resident of Pima County, Arizona, and a citizen of the United States of America. Mr. Sawyer is a veteran of the United States Marine Corps and a former Navy SEAL, having served on the Elite SEAL Team 6. 7. Mr. Sawyer is an expert in several military and combat disciplines. Since leaving military service, Mr. Sawyer has maintained a prominent niche in public life relating to his military expertise, including involvement with multiple television broadcasts and documentaries. In 2017, Mr. Sawyer founded Veterans for Child Rescue Incorporated, V4CR, an organization devoted to rescuing victims of child abuse. Mr. Sawyer's successes in many of his venues depends on maintaining a favorable public profile and reputation. I've never been real good at read-alongs. Number 8. Plaintiff and counterclaim defendant Randy Lynn Erickson resides at 9285 205 Avenue Northwest in the city of Elk River, County of Anoka County, and the state of Minnesota. Mrs. Erickson is a publisher of websites located on the internet at timothycharleshomestead.com and writeintoaction.com. She proclaims to be a sovereign citizen and a member of a task force that gathers actionable intelligence of international crimes with the United States Army Intelligence Support Activity under the name Pentagon Pedophile Task Force. Beginning around November 2018, Mrs. Erickson, along with cohort Timothy Charles Homestead, began publishing a multitude of false and defamatory statements against Mr. Sawyer. Mrs. Erickson relies on Jesse Marie CZEBOTAR as a source for many of her false and defamatory allegations. Miss C claims that she witnessed a murder by Sawyer, as well as several murders by Hillary Rodham Clinton in Chicago in the early 1980s, which including the raping, torturing, and eating of children during satanic rituals while Mr. Sawyer watched. Ms. C named several politicians, celebrities, and other high-profile individuals such as Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, Newt Gingrich, Dick Cheney, Dan Quayle, Mike Pence, John Kerry, Muammar Gaddafi, and Amy Coney Barrett, and Elon Musk, to name a few, as being involved in some satanic cult that tortures, rapes, murders, and eats children. Because of the spectacular nature of Ms. CZ's claims, her credibility is broadly questioned across the internet and elsewhere, and would be par se require anyone repeating her accusations to investigate them independently, especially before repeated publications. I have no idea how to pronounce that woman's name, so I'm just going to call her Miss C if there's any more. Objective facts. Counterclaimant realleges and incorporates by reference the preceding paragraphs as fully set forth herein. 10. Counterclaimant Sawyer subscribes to a Christian worldview, which includes the views that Satanism and satanic pedophilia are gravely evil, and that child sexual abuse is a heinous crime against Almighty God, humanity, and against the young victims. Counterclaimant has lived his life, raised his family, established his career, and built his reputation both publicly and privately on these views. Mr. Sawyer currently leads a ministry specifically devoted to exposing the evils of satanic pedophilia and or aiding the victims of such crimes. Number 11. Mr. Sawyer has never met Mrs. Erickson, never spoken to her, and has no relationship with her. The only exception to this allegation would be the extent of which Mrs. Erickson listened to any of Mr. Sawyer's broadcasts or commentaries that are available to the general public. 12. Mrs. Erickson operates two websites located on the internet, timothycharleshomeseth.com and rightintoaction.com. Apparently, for whatever reason, he hasn't mentioned High Command or a couple of the other ones that are out there, including her Twitter. But there is this: YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. There are multiple defamatory postings by Mrs. Erickson and Mr. Homeseth against Mr. Sawyer. For example, on April 28, 2021, Mr. Sawyer announced that he would be a speaker at a faith conference in Dallas in May of 2021. Afterward, Mrs. Erickson contacted event organizers and guests, telling them that Craig Sawyer is a human trafficker who raped a child. On May 25th, 2021, Mrs. Erickson published on the internet at BitChute.com video/DKKMN, so on and so forth, that Craig Sawyer is an accused Clinton human trafficker who allegedly raped a child, led a life of crime, committed more interstate wire fraud, pedophile, child sex offender, and attempting to kidnap and kill Timothy Charles Homeseth. As to Mr. Hammer, the video link state that Mr. Hammer went by the name of John Regan in the 1980s and sold kidnapped babies through the Ukrainian embassy in Washington, D.C. This video has been viewed over 3,000 times. 14. Mrs. Erickson and Mr. Homeseth have a special section on their website dedicated to harassing and defaming Mr. Sawyer, located at timothycharleshomeseth.com, Craig plus Sawyer, which has over 100 postings mentioning Mr. Sawyer with false and defamatory statements, including but not limited to stating that Mr. Sawyer is a child rapist, serial killer, contract killer, pedophile, drug trafficker, potential presidential assassin, and that he formed a heavy domestic terror group and kidnapping operation that is ripping people off and working with human traffickers as a way to make himself appear anti-trafficking. 15. One defamatory video published by Randy Erickson was republished at randyerickson.com 10/15/2021. Randy Erickson calls the governor's office. And that was published on October 15th, 2021. The video is a recorded phone conversation between Mrs. Erickson and Robert Cottle, a preparedness programs administrator for the Texas Office of the Governor. Beginning at 1 minute 38 seconds, Mrs. Erickson states that Craig Sawyer is involved with child trafficking, and she has proof of that internationally. Such an allegation is completely false and defamatory. Beginning at 10 minutes 14 seconds, Mrs. Erickson states that Mr. Sawyer is operating an independent battleground on child trafficking, but he has not rescued one child. This is false and defamatory, as the V4CR has made 23 arrests with a 100% conviction rate as a result of its joint sting operations with law enforcement. As another example, Mrs. Erickson and Mr. Holmseth published the following. Video title: Attorney Lynn Wood and Stu Peters getting close to their light bulb moment. Source: BitChute video and reference numbers. At 4 minutes 10 seconds, Mrs. Erickson published an apparent account from Adrian John Wells that states that he was kidnapped from his family home in Australia in 1984. Then Mr. Wells was transported by Mr. Sawyer to a U.S. Army and Hollywood police pedophile ring involving Harvey Weinstein, then to Arkansas for a pornography deal with Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, then to New York City, where he was raped by a U.S. Army soldier in the bed of a New York City apartment, possibly owned by Senator Joe Biden. Mr. Wells then states that he was tortured by the CIA under arrangements made by Michael Flynn. This video also posts excerpts from an affidavit from Jesse CZBOTAR ECF 13-2, pages 10 through 12, which describes the incidences in a suburb of Chicago, Illinois between 1981 and 1984, involving Hillary Rodham Clinton, along with Mr. Sawyer serving as her protector. Mrs. whatever you pronounce that name, affidavit states that she witnessed torture and a murder of a man who tried to escape the Luciferian system. Further, Mrs. CZ's affidavit states that she witnesses Mrs. Clinton murder 4 girls around the age of 10, but not before torturing them sexually and abusing them and actually eating parts of their bodies, all while Mr. Sawyer was present, watching and yelling at the children to, quote, "Quit crying, you little babies." This video has been viewed over 16,000 times. 17. An exemplary list of 79 videos published by Mrs. Erickson and Mr. Holmseth with their dates, titles, and links to their location on the internet are attached herewith in Exhibit A. These videos have been viewed several thousand times. General allegations. 18. Counterclaimant realleges and incorporates by reference the preceding paragraphs as fully set forth herein. 19. Mrs. Erickson, in conjunction with Mr. Holmseth, has caused irreparable injury to Mr. Sawyer's reputation, profession, trade, and businesses through her continued false and slanderous publication, accusing Mr. Sawyer of engaging in, among other things, the most heinous crimes of pedophilia, child sex trafficking, and murder. 20. Mrs. Erickson's published defamatory statements were not intended, framed, or presented as mere opinion, hyperbole, or satire. Rather, they are presented as established facts for which, according to one video, Mrs. Erickson had proof that Mr. Sawyer was involved with international child trafficking. One direct effect of Mrs. Erickson's defamatory publications was to expose Mr. Sawyer to public hatred, contempt, ridicule, and aversion. A second direct effect of Mrs. Erickson's direct defamatory publications was to create hostile and unsavory opinions about Mr. Sawyer in the minds of a substantial number of people. A third direct effect of Mrs. Erickson's defamatory publications was to dissuade people from associating with, supporting, and contributing to him and his businesses and organizations. 24. A fourth direct of Mrs. Erickson's defamatory publications was to cause immediate and threatening reactions from some viewers and listeners. 25. A fifth direct effect of Mrs. Erickson's defamatory publications was to cause and encourage others to republish her defamatory statements on their own social media accounts, thereby increasing the audience who hear and view these defamations. In what appears to be an ongoing conspiracy amongst various blogs to destroy Mr. Sawyer's reputation, businesses, and career, Mrs. Erickson's exhortations and the foreseeable republications of her statements elsewhere are encouraging the proliferation of the defamations and the related threats against Mr. Sawyer motivated by these defamations. Mrs. Erickson's internet publications and other communications as described above are defamatory per se. C. Boyer versus Boise Cascade Corporation 776 and W. 2nd 910, 920. Site, Minnesota 2009. Loganban versus Schoenrock 727 NW 2D 153159, Minnesota Court, approximately 2017. In almost every circumstance, a reasonable listener would believe that the calling of a person a pedophile imputes serious sexual misconduct or criminal activity to that person and is therefore defamatory per se. 27. Mrs. Erickson's internet publications as described above were published with deliberate intent and with Mrs. Erickson knowing the accusations to be false or in reckless disregard of the truth. Further, Mrs. Erickson published them with knowledge that Mr. Sawyer would suffer the injuries described therein. As such, Mrs. Erickson published her defamations against Mr. Sawyer with both personal malice and actual malice, as that term was defined in New York Times versus Sullivan 376 U.S. 254, 1964. 28. Mrs. Erickson has caused irreparable damage, injury, financial and otherwise, to Mr. Sawyer and his businesses, ministries, and reputations, and that damage is ongoing. Mr. Sawyer will continue to such injury into the future with no adequate remedy at law unless Mrs. Erickson is restrained from publishing and republishing her false, groundless, and defamatory accusations that Mr. Sawyer is engaged in the most heinous crimes. First claim for relief, defamation par se. 30. Counterclaimant realleges incorporation by reference the preceding paragraphs as set forth herein. You see that a lot in these documents. 31. Mrs. Erickson's false and defamatory publications as described above regarding Mr. Sawyer give rise to monetary damages for Mr. Sawyer against Mrs. Erickson for defamation per se under the common law for the state of Minnesota. As a direct and proximate result of the foregoing, Mr. Sawyer had suffered damages in the amount to be determined at trial. Second claim for relief, punitive damages. Counterclaimant realleges and incorporations by reference the preceding paragraphs as fully set forth therein. 34. Under Minnesota statutes, section 549.20, punitive damages are permitted when the requisite showing of deliberate disregard for the rights of others. 35. As described above, Mrs. Erickson has undertaken the actions that amount to actual malice or a deliberate disregard for the rights of Mr. Sawyer. Accordingly, Mr. Sawyer is entitled to an award of punitive damages as in an amount to be determined at trial. Third claim for relief, injunction. Counterclaimant realleges and incorporates by reference the preceding paragraphs set forth herein. 38. Mrs. Erickson's continuing false and defamatory publications as described above regarding Mr. Sawyer give rise to claims for injunctive relief for Mr. Sawyer against Mrs. Erickson, as Mr. Sawyer and his reputation is suffering irreparable harm for which there is no adequate remedy for law. And this paragraph here gets into the site for that. Wherefore, defendant and counterclaimant Craig Randall Sawyer respectfully request that this court grant him the following relief. Judgment for compensatory damages against Mrs. Erickson for actual injuries suffered by Mr. Sawyer in an amount to be determined at trial, but far in excess of $75,000. B. Judgment for presumed damages against Mrs. Erickson for actual damages suffered by Mr. Sawyer in an amount to be determined at trial, but far in excess of $75,000. C. Judgment for punitive damages against Mrs. Sawyer Mrs. Erickson in favor of Mr. Sawyer in an amount to be determined at trial, but far in excess of $75,000. D. Preliminary and permanent injunctive relief to prevent continuing defamations for which there is no adequate remedy at law. E. An award to Mr. Sawyer against Mrs. Erickson for Mr. Sawyer's costs, disbursements, and attorney's fees incurred in connection with this litigation, and F. Any other relief, both legal and equitable, to which Mr. Sawyer may be entitled. And this was respectively submitted on February 15, 2022 by DROL PLLC, Brandon R. Tupa, Tim L. Droel, Brandon R. Tupa, in Bloomington, Illinois, attorneys for defendant and counterclaim plaintiff Greg Randall Sawyer. Jury demand. Under federal rule of Civil Procedure 38, defendant and counterclaim plaintiff Craig Randall Sawyer demands a trial by jury on all matters so triable. And it's signed Brandon R. Tupa. And so there you have it. Punisher for Truth. As stated in the lawsuit, that accusation is false. And your statement on my chat, which is being recorded, will be sent to Mr. Sawyer as additional evidence for his lawsuit. So you are providing evidence to Mr. Sawyer to use against and his lawsuit against Randy Erickson. Now, another thing that Punisher doesn't seem to understand, this is in response to a lawsuit that Randy Erickson filed against Craig Sawyer and two other defendants. There is no need for a summons, no need for a process server, because Randy Erickson and her information is already in the court system. So all the judge does is say, okay, lady, you filed a lawsuit. Your defendant has answered the lawsuit. That's a notice. Craig Sawyer does not have to go out and hire a county sheriff to file a process server. The court's doing it for him because he is answering a lawsuit that's initiated by Randy Erickson. If Randy Erickson does not show up in the court, not only will she be in contempt, but her lawsuit will get thrown out, and Craig Sawyer will win his lawsuit by default. So Randy loses twice. She loses because she didn't show up to court, so her lawsuit is thrown out, and she loses in court because Craig Sawyer will be granted by default. But Punisher, you just go ahead and you keep putting your foot in your mouth. I'd like to see your qualifications as an attorney. Last I knew, you were the editor and owner of a pitifully small blog, and so far none of your predictions have come true. But that's okay. And Punisher for Truth, you're not even allowed in here. You were told not to come in here. So you said your piece, so I'm gonna kick you out. I have enough to use you for evidence. Yeah, see, Punisher was so worried about what I was going to say tonight, he had to come over here. Even though he knows that he has violated my request that he not be here. So we have gang stalking by Punisher showing up. Punisher for Truth is not for Punisher for Truth. And the thing is, Timothy Homestead does not have to show up in court because he's not the one being sued. Randy Lynn Erickson is the one who is being sued. Randy Lynn Erickson is not in hiding. She is seen on the public streets every day. She has shown up, according to her, to meetings in Apopka. Now, this is all the exhibits that Craig Sawyer has listed as evidence against Randy Lynn Erickson. There are 79 of these, and these will all be presented in court. And so, you know, Randy Lynn Erickson is going to have to defend each and every one of these. Mert, you've got ESCIMOMMA. What the hell is that? Well, Punisher will have to show up in court if he's called as a witness. Now, this is a long ways off. This has to go through a process now of being scheduled by the court and to determine where it goes from here. Now, this is okay, well, really, Punisher? If you're who I think I think you are, uh, but you're coming in here making false statements. Craig Sawyer has not gone after Timmy. And I'll tell you what, Punisher, let's let this go through the court system and see who's right. So far you've been dead wrong on all your speculations. I've read all your bragging over there on BitChute, but fine. This has got to go through the court system. We can't sit here as an audience on our chat and say, okay, he's automatically going to win. He's going to go to court. He's going to prove his case. This here, all these discovery exhibits here is, I don't know. That's up to Timothy Homestead. The only problem with that, Punisher, is Tim Homestead has an active warrant for his arrest. And if he shows up in court, he's risking getting arrested. So that's, we're going to see what's going to happen here. But right now, the only defendant in the case is Randy Lynn Erickson. As the owner and publisher and trustee or whatever she keeps calling herself, she is 100% liable for whatever his publisher stated on the two blogs. Now, this is going to be a state trial under the laws of the state of Minnesota. It's not going to be a federal trial. That means that I would be able to go to the courthouse in Minnesota and, at a minimum, be able to sit in court and give a point-by-point presentation of what happens in court the same way I did the last time I went to Colorado and how I intend to cover the next two cases. So it looks like if everything goes the way I think this is going to go, I will be covering this trial gavel to gavel live as it happens on location. So stay tuned for that. So as soon as I get any word as the months tick by here as to the schedule for this hearing and so forth, I will begin the coverage for it. Maybe Randy can use it. Because what's funny is right now, Timmy has nothing to worry about. He is not being sued. The only person that is being sued is Randy Lynn Erickson. Tim Homestead can run around the country and put his books up in front of a camera all he wants. It's his boss, Randy Lynn Erickson that is civilly liable for. Oh, shit. Sorry about that. I'm glad you're able to get back in. Well, let me go right. Michael, let me go back up here to the beginning. Because, well, if it's a federal trial, the only thing I won't be able to do is live stream from inside the courtroom. So it says United States District Court, so this may be a federal trial. I stand corrected on that. But I will still be able to attend the trial. I just will be restricted under federal laws as far as any inside reporting. I would have to come out during breaks and give an update as to what is happening in the court. I can, I can write things down on a notebook or something, but I can't go on behind that. Yeah, Melissa, I see that now. I stand corrected. This is going to be a federal trial. And so that I will be able to attend the trial. It's just that I have to follow federal rules when up there. And so, again, that means that my contacting the court's going to be in through a different venue since this is the United States Federal Court. But that's even worse for Randy because now, instead of being in the state court, she's in federal court. And she's, there's things that she cannot do in a federal court that she might get away with in a state court. When Timmy was first brought to trial, it was in state court. This is federal court. And so she's got an even worse time now that this is going to a federal court. I don't know why anybody wants shots of child porn. That's kind of strange. So maybe Punisher can explain themselves. Yeah, Punisher, you might want to read up on the law. I don't know if you're trying to trick Levi into disobeying the law, but, you cannot transmit child pornography over the internet. That'll land you in jail for quite a while. Yeah, there's no whatever about it, Punisher. That is the law. He cannot transmit child pornography over the internet. That any child images that show nude pictures of children or otherwise has to be turned over to law enforcement with an explanation of where they came from and why he's in possession of them. Now, Tim Holmseth allegedly has stated that he is or was in possession of child pornography or knows who has possession of child pornography, and it's his job to turn this over to what is this maritime law crap? That's Field McConnell got into that crap, and it didn't do him a very good. But you ought to take that stuff over to Telegram. It really doesn't belong in mainstream. No, he sure didn't. Phil McConnell avoided the truth. I guess the trolls have decided to come in, but so far everybody's been wrong about what's going on here with um, all this. Um, Now the rubber's going to hit the road because Randy Erickson now has to prove or lose. You know, she cannot avoid it. It was my opinion that Randy Erickson was hoping that her case would be dismissed so that she could have something to complain about. She could argue about. Yeah, I was told. I thought she was able to get back in. How do I get her back? Um, Sorry about that, Laurie. I know you're probably still watching, because when you kick somebody out, they can watch. They just can't comment. So I got to figure out what the hell. Um, how do you unblock somebody? Okay, Glow. I didn't know if she got timed out or I blocked her. She there she is. Good. She got back somehow. Sorry about that. That's not the first time. Oh, thanks, Levi. I appreciate that. I didn't know wrenches could do that, but thank you. Yeah, sorry. I apologize. This isn't the first time I kicked somebody out by mistake. That's it. But anyway, that's where we're at here. We've got, I don't know how long before this thing goes to trial. Yeah, I've got. Okay, and just for the information, this new filing has nullified Craig Sawyer's original request, um, but it has not nullified either Kim Picazio's or Robert Hammer's. They could, if they wanted to, make the similar request to um, have Randy Erickson's um, request denied by the judge. Okay, I was getting a lot of Twitter's going nuts right now. I'm getting all kinds of messages on Twitter. Okay, I need to get your wrench back to you, but we'll get that straightened out. Let me. I don't know. I ain't gonna screw with that right now. I'll be sure to give you a wrench so we don't have this problem again. But okay, now what I'm probably going to do is close this out at 10 o'clock. This is basically just to give everybody an update on this filing today. So the only thing that we'll have to see is going forward, what is going to be the reply by. Yeah, I did. All right, I got to get rid of that. Sorry, that's been up long enough. Go up to comments. New comments below. Okay, I think we're back to normal. It's always good to have backup in case I screw up, which is enough. And there is a possibility if she does not show up for this trial, there could be a federal warrant issued. But again, she is backed herself into her corner because she can't drop her lawsuit without admitting that she was wrong, and she has to show up for the second action because it's a counter claim to her original lawsuit. He's basically disputing what she said, so she now has to come to court and say, okay, this is what the deal is. So there is going to be a trial. That is pretty much a given because she cannot just say, well, let's forget the whole damn thing. Ain't happening. She lost. If all Craig did was to ask for the thing to be dismissed, that would be the end of it. But he's gone ahead and say, no, you're wrong. I am filing a lawsuit against you because of the things you stated on the internet and the things you stated in your case about me. So now it's going to be Craig Sawyer versus Lynn Erickson in court. And Lynn Erickson's might as well get out, if she I got sidetracked. No, but it's just that now Randy Erickson, whether she wants to or not, is going to have to show up in court and defend herself. And so it's going to be Craig Sawyer and Randy Lynn Erickson duking it out in federal court and go from there. Now, this is going to be a civil trial. There's not going to be any jail time or any of that unless somebody doesn't show up in court that's subpoenaed. Because witnesses can be subpoenaed to court. And that's where the waters are going to get muddy. See if there's going to be any direct witnesses being called, any sworn statements, any of that stuff. So that's what's going to happen. But yeah, it would be nice if we could all show up. But what I am going to do is I will be there. I will be live. And I will cover this trial gavel to gavel. And so we'll see how this is going to go in the days and weeks to come. It's probably going to be a minimum of 6 months from now before this thing even hits the docket. As we have seen from other actions going through the courts as far as like the Neely Blanchard case and so on and so forth, it's taken a long time to get these through the court. So I would suspect that we will see this go to trial sometime in September. Maybe a little bit before. It just depends on the federal docket up there, how this is worked through the system, because you got pre-trial hearings, you got all kinds of stuff that needs to be worked out. And then it comes down to jury selection, scheduling the actual trial, so on and so forth. And once we get to that point, that's where I start making flight plans to Minnesota and figuring out where I'm going to stay and all that happy stuff. Um, Now, a word about Super Chat. Um, I keep checking my statement with YouTube, and that amount hasn't budged. So I appreciate everybody giving me the funds and everything, but I don't know where it's going. It's not showing up on YouTube. Um, and so until we get that straightened out, you're probably better off to save your money for right now. Because I don't like the idea of having people spend their money and it's not going where it belongs. Um, well, here's the thing with Daniel Lee. Um, what people don't know is there is a process going on uh, for the plaintiffs in that particular lawsuit to get their funds. It takes time. You have to go through the court, and you also have to go through certain commercial people that handle that sort of thing. But Daniel Lee is going to have a whole set of problems here eventually. Now they may not get all the funds they want, but they're basically going to clean his clock when they get done with him. So eventually he's going to be held accountable. Now, in the case of Randy Erickson, while we're on the subject of assets, as I said, she didn't put all of her business assets into an LLC. She's got it all out there in the open. Nothing is listed as an LLC. So that means that virtually all her assets, both joint and singular, is subject to seizure by the court in order to compensate Mr. Sawyer should he win his lawsuit. And so that is problem number 3, or number 1. Actually, it is number 3, but another problem that Mrs. Erickson has is she now has to hire a lawyer. It would be extremely dumb if she were to show up in court and represent herself. One of the top law firms in the state of Minnesota is representing Mr. Sawyer. Okay, Lori, well, I'm going to have to, I got to figure out who to write at YouTube and find out what's going on because my balance hasn't changed. And I don't know what the process is because I thought with the first business day, it would go over into the thing where it's got to get up to $100. But I've also read that 30% of the super chats go to YouTube. And that's a very inefficient way. That's how YouTube is making all their money. Is they're sucking 30% out of anything you give to anyone right off the top. So that's this YouTube's very greedy. But we'll go with that. Anyway, but and another problem that Randy has, number 1, I think she's not able to file for bankruptcy yet. You have to wait a certain period of time between bankruptcies. You just can't go and do these one after the other, after the other, after the other. You have to wait. And you cannot file bankruptcy to get out of a federal lawsuit. Because all Greg has to do is go to court and says that she has a history of filing bankruptcy, and there's a possibility that she would file bankruptcy to avoid any summary judgment, and the federal judge would then put a lien on her assets, which would mean that she cannot liquidate any of her assets at all. She would have to get approval from the court to sell anything. And you also, as part of the lawsuit, when you do go to court, you have to disclose to the court your assets and liabilities. And Randall's going to have to do, Craig is going to have to do the same thing. And Craig Sawyer could put a lien on everything to prevent her liquidation as well. She supposedly has 2 houses here in the state of Florida. One is a condominium and the other is a regular house. Plus she has property in Minnesota. So that can be tracked down and liens put on all that property. So she wouldn't be able to do anything. And, any assets, such as the sale of t-shirts and coffee mugs, could have a hold put on them so that they don't have access to those funds either. So she's not in a very good position right now. And so we will be watching to see who is the winner and who is the loser in this little game. If I were Timmy, I wouldn't be cheerleading right now. I would be quite worried because his little stipend might be nothing to cheer about. I don't know what he's got up over there, but it apparently has nothing to do with this particular case. Well, it's not going to be Rebecca because, win or lose, she's got big problems. First of all, from every expert I've talked to, she's on the bad side of this. She looks to lose and lose big because she will be prohibited from operating any internet site. All her sites will have to come down. She will have to go to court and take everything, tell the court this is what we own, and the court will order it shut down. This is what happened to Field McConnell, and it never went to trial. Yeah, Big Alex, I was wondering why so quite. What's quite? Now, that we're going to see. Now, down here at the bottom is Craig's discovery evidence. Now, from what I understand, Randy did file discovery with the state, or with the federal government, and I have not had access to that, but it would more than likely be everything that Craig Sawyer has mentioned so far in here, plus there's probably other stuff having to do with Kim Picazio that's come out, the defamation against her, and other things that are out there. I can almost assure you that Melania will not be speaking on either one of their behalves. Melania doesn't know Randy Erickson at all, and she certainly does not know Tim Holmseth. So, this is another thing that's going to come out, is that, nobody seems to be helping these two. Tim Holmseth claims he's under OPSEC and all that, and not a peep out of Trump, not a peep out of Melania, not much out of Lynn Wood. And so, well, this is the problem. Randy cannot prove these defamations. And the court requires that. She has to come into court and she has to prove it. She has to prove that what she says about Craig Sawyer and Bob Hammer and all these other people are true, and she cannot do that. General Flynn has a good case against her, as do other people. Flynn could squash her like a cockroach because she's made accusations against Flynn. She's made these accusations against some pretty important people, and I was basically she or he, because I don't know what gender Punisher is, but I was poking fun of her typos, which I shouldn't because my typos are even worse. But that's okay. But anyway, so we're having this. Let me get my train of thought back on track here. These people will cause your brain to explode. They're so far out there. They're farther out in the outer limits than the James Webb Telescope. It's just, these people are way out there in the abyss. But, Randy's hit a tripwire. And now she's going to be sitting on a federal defamation suit that she's going to have to figure out how she's going to handle it. She thought she was this big smartass that was going to get Craig Sawyer to cower and at the very least get her to look like a big deal to all those people over on Telegram and BitChute. And now she's going to find herself in the thick of a hornet's nest. Because now this is going to be a duplicate. This is going to be exactly what happened with Field McConnell. She's not going to be able to publish anymore on the internet. She's not going to be able to mention any of these people's names. And she's also going to have to take down all her websites. That's what's going to come out of this. And as she, so, Holmseth is probably going to escape anything because only Randy Erickson is being sued. Tim Holmseth, for the moment, is not facing any ramification for this unless he shows up in court, and then he's going to find himself in jail. And I'd love to be there for that one. But let me, now that we're done with that. But when I edit this, I'm going to figure out how to, there's the person that has this can probably put it on their account, and it can be free for everyone, so that everybody can read this document, because I'm not sure how to do a direct. Well, this is another problem that Randy has. She has put out there that she is wealthy and has all these assets and everything. So what's going to happen is the lawyer for Craig Sawyer is probably going to start researching her assets. He is going to get detectives to do forensic accounting and do searches that lawyers can do to see exactly what she has, what it's worth, and where it is. And then, logically, this is speculation on my part, but I would think that these assets, there would be a lien put on all these assets, and they would be frozen so that she could not liquidate, and that she would have to go to court in order to do any and all transactions. They would have to go through the court. She can't sell her car, she can't sell furniture, she can't sell any stock, she can't sell any of her real estate without going through the court, because they have to keep track of all these assets so that she doesn't run away with this money and not have anything there to pay the damages that would go to Craig Sawyer in the event that he wins his lawsuit. And on top of it all, in order to defend herself in court, if she has the sense to retain an attorney that's a licensed bar attorney rather than use Kirk Pendergraph or herself to argue this case, she's going to have to come up with a retainer. And this retainer could be anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. Lawyers are not cheap, especially lawyers for a defendant in one of these cases. They don't make, it's not like ambulance chasers that make 30% of the settlement. They make whatever they negotiate with their client if they prevail. And if the client loses, they still make money because they're charging an hourly rate. This is what happened. This is not criminal court. This is civil court, and things work a lot different. So the lawyer who Randy gets on retainer is going to want a retainer. And like I said, that retainer could be anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. And also, he is going to charge an hourly rate, anywhere from $100 an hour and up. And I've seen these timed lawyers get $400 to $500 an hour, what they call billable hours. And there are various fees. Now, Randy Erickson paid out close to $500 in this little thing that she did in Minnesota regarding Craig Sawyer. And there's going to be all kinds of fees that the court is going to throw at everybody in this case. And so Randy's going to have to pay for some of this up front. And so she's going to find herself out of pocket for thousands of dollars before this thing even goes to court. And then if she loses all this money, not only is she out all that money that she spent on the trial, but she's out what Craig Sawyer spent on the trial. And the court isn't going to say, okay, I'm sorry that you weren't able to win and you're broke and everything, and we're just going to let you slide on the court costs of Craig Sawyer. That ain't happening. The court is like the IRS. They're going to get their money. Now, I don't know if Minnesota is a state where they garnish your income, but I guess we're going to find out. And I'm pretty sure that if there is a garnishment policy in the state of Minnesota, whoever loses this case is going to find out the hard way. Yeah, that's correct, Big Little. She will have to pay Craig's attorney, pay his fees, and she's going to have to pay out all the damages that the jury rewards her. And that liability will be on your slate for the rest of your, until you pay it all off. This is going to affect her credit. Her credit score is going to go in the toilet because if she goes to buy a car, buy a house, get a loan, get a credit card, they're going to see that lien by the court on her revenue, that she owes all this money, and she's going to have a hard time. Her credit score is going to be so low, she may as well hang up having any kind of credit line, either personally or professionally. She'll be screwed. And, and that's, getting, playing in the big leagues and you don't even know how to play in the little leagues is a dangerous thing to get involved in. This is not some fantasy court on BitChute or Telegram or Gab. This is a U.S. federal court, and it's a federal jury. And You're working under federal rules of law. You're not working under sovereign citizen law. You're not working under admiralty law or you're not working out of the Black's Law Book. You are working with the United States federal court. And she's going to find that she's reached the limit of her fairy tale. And that also is a problem, is who is she going to retain as an attorney? First of all, she's going to have to find someone that's willing to take the case. Now, Lynn Wood, as far as I know, cannot practice in the state of Minnesota. He may not be practicing law anywhere if the indications are coming out of the various bar associations. He may be done as a lawyer. That's hard to say. But at any rate, the first thing Randy has to do is find a lawyer that'll represent her. Because if she goes into court to represent herself, it's going to be an unmitigated disaster. She's going to lose right out of the gate. Because you're working with a professional, licensed bar attorney, or barfly as she likes to call him, and he's going to steamroll over her. A federal judge isn't going to sit there and say, well, Mrs. Erickson, I understand you're not a lawyer, and I'm going to kind of guide you through the process. It doesn't work that way. Judges don't do that. They're not allowed to, number one. So when she says that she's going to represent herself in this case, the judge may take it upon him or herself to say, lady, you better get yourself an attorney, because I can't help you. And if you screw up, it's on you. You don't know the 18 points of objection to use in court. You don't know Brady rules. You don't know any of that stuff. And that professional lawyer over on the other side knows all that stuff, and he can use that to his or her advantage, and you are going to lose this case. So, well, if Lynn is retired from being a lawyer, then who is Randy going to get? This is going to be curious. I would love to see who she retains as a lawyer. Kirk Pendergrass and David Straight cannot set foot in a Minnesota courtroom. They've already been through that drill. And if Kirk Pendergrass or David Straight walks into that courtroom, Craig Sawyer's lawyer can get up and say, oh, no, you don't. You're not. Where's your license to practice law in the state of Minnesota? And the judge will say, you're out of here. They will not allow Kirk Pendergrass or David Straight to represent her in this lawsuit. It is not going to happen. They cannot practice law in any state in this country because they are not a member of the Bar Association. Sooner or later, the government's going to start cracking down on these half-wit people that are going around pretending to be lawyers. And, their time is coming. And it certainly isn't going to happen in the state of Minnesota. And this is a Trump-appointed lawyer or a judge, from what I understand, that's going to be hearing this case. Unless he assigns one of the other associate justices to hear it. Yeah, that's quite right. You have to be licensed at the with the federal bar as well as with the state bar in order to make an appearance in federal court, and that's what Randy's going to find out. Yeah, well, that's true. That's a conflict of interest. He would have to recuse himself anyway. Yeah, Randy she's kind of inflated her resume. She is a former municipal title judge, as best I can figure out. It's not even, she can't get up in court and preside over a defendant and a plaintiff in a case like this. It's she's let this go to her head, and I understand that she kind of made a fool of herself in the hearing regarding this, and it didn't go well. Um, Big Little, it's a possibility that it may run about uh, 8 to 10 months. Uh, I think the immediate thing that's going to happen is that that Craig Sawyer is going to uh, request a continuance of the um, restraining orders in order for protections that he's got in place. Um, so as far as the timetable, it's hard to say. Uh, I know the Sarah Palin trial got on the docket fairly quickly, and it was also just dismissed. Uh, so it's hard to say, because a lot of it depends on the jurisdiction. The docket up there in that court in Minnesota, how full is their docket? Have they got room to slot in Craig Sawyer in a jury trial? And, is there something that Craig could do in the meantime to get some kind of temporary relief while this is working its way through? Hard to say. Um, this is the first salvo in this little war, and now we got to see what the next step is going to be. And so as the days, weeks, months, and possibly a year goes on, we'll see where this goes. But I would suspect that the lawyer in Minnesota is going to tell the judge, look, we got to do something because this man is being defamed on a daily basis. His damage is occurring on a daily basis. We have got to get something done here to resolve this issue. So I think that there's a possibility that they could accelerate the process. And Randy already started it by filing her paperwork with the court. And so they're that far along in the process. So now all they got to do is integrate Craig Sawyer's lawsuit in the process. And that's correct, Big Little. This is where the injunctive relief comes in. He at least wants to get something done right now and then go the rest of the way. So the injunctive relief might be happening before the actual jury trial. Now, I'm not much of a legal expert to know if that's going to be the case or not, but it would be my guess that there is going to be something happening early enough to where they can start this process and give some relief to Craig Sawyer temporarily until this works its way through the court. And this would be in the form of a gag order. The judge will tell Timmy and Randy not to discuss the case and not to discuss any more Craig Sawyer in their social media websites, that they would have to basically shut up until this matter's resolved. And so there would be no more stuff coming out from Holmseth or Erickson. Now, what's going to happen is, most likely, you got all this stuff over on Telegram being done by third and fourth parties, and I don't know what can be done about that, because the genie is out of the bottle, so to speak. But again, what this does is, by this stuff being on the internet, it gives a cumulative effect. It gives a cumulative effect to Craig Sawyer in the form of material evidence that now all this stuff is going to come out, and Craig Sawyer is just going to keep picking it off the internet. And we got more discovery here, more discovery here, more discovery here. We have people like the Punisher that may wind themselves up being a material witness, and they may be called into court. Uh, all these people over on Telegram, like Infiltrated for Truth and whatever it is she calls herself, she might wind up being uh, brought down from Canada to testify in this case. There's all sorts of things that could happen where we get into this situation of witnesses, additional discovery, additional websites, specific websites. I would think that both Facebook and Twitter are going to be required to archive the accounts so that none of this stuff can be deleted, removed, locked up, or any of it. It's all going to be accessible in the event it's needed as discovery in the trial. What we're doing is this: if Craig Sawyer prevails, we're looking at a duplication of what happened with Field McConnell. Field McConnell was ordered to stay off the internet, and well, you may get your wish, Punisher, because you would be a material witness against Randy Erickson and for Craig Sawyer. You would be subject to examination by the attorney for Craig Sawyer, and you would be under oath, so you can't lie. And you would have to identify yourself. You just can't go up there as Punisher for Truth. You would have to give your legal name and where you live in court, and it would be a matter of public record. So I would think long and hard as you go forward about how deeply you want to get involved in being at a trial between these two, because it may not be the fun and games that you think it's going to be. Being involved directly in a federal trial is not a pleasant experience. I've been to enough of these federal trials to see how witnesses are handled, and I've seen witnesses destroyed by opposing counsel in these things. So if I were you, Punisher, I would start boning up on the United States federal court process and read up on, say, what the ramifications are of perjuring yourself in court, and so on and so forth. And that vacation you're bragging about may not be a vacation you want to take, and it's not going to be a voluntary vacation. So it can scramble internet signals too. We're getting into that's quite correct. They will be going after every single solitary social media account that Randy Erickson has. And that's personal, business, whatever. And that's all over the internet map. So if she has any of these secret private chat rooms or channels or any of that, they'll be discovered and subpoenaed into court. All the records. All internet service providers are required under law to archive their content. This is both the FCC and the Department of Homeland Security. They are required to archive everything, and so And all it takes is a federal judge to say, all right, I want this social media account, that, and bang, 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 go down through all. I don't know who you are. I'm just saying don't do it. You know, if you go to federal court, just, be prepared to answer questions that you may not want to answer uh, because you are a material witness. I've seen some of the postings over there on BitChute, and so has all parties in this case. So you will be under oath in court. And if you tell the truth, fine. But don't even think about lying in court. I'm just giving you a warning. It won't be pleasant. And, this is the thing. You are going to be testifying against the woman that supports Tim Homestead. So, another point of law here is that you can be declared a hostile witness. And that means that the counsel can ask you leading questions. And believe me, you don't want to be a hostile witness. It's even worse because they will use a hostile witness to further impugn Randy Erickson in this case. So, well, go ahead and do your own research, Punisher. I would recommend every single solitary person on here that has the time to do so start researching how the federal court system works. And maybe you'll have an understanding when the time comes what Randy is going to have to go through when this lawsuit proceeds. Well, it's one thing, folks, for Punisher to say what they say on the internet in these various chat rooms. They can make all the claims they want. But when it comes to going into federal court, putting your hand on that Bible and swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you, that's a whole different ballgame. That's when we will find out the truth. Not just this internet truth, the actual legal, provable truth. It's going to come out. And I guarantee you it's going to be a hell of a lot different than what we see on BitChute and Facebook and Telegram and Gab and all these other websites out there. People are going to have to tell the truth. That goes for Randy, that goes for Craig, that goes for anyone else that sits in the witness chair. So, no, I didn't say we're the only one. Where did you read that? You know, the liability remains for anyone, but I'm not the one going around saying that this person eats babies and this person is buying children and selling them to the Ukrainian government. Read the documents over there of what she has said about Craig Sawyer. And it's all over Telegram. That is not satire. It is not smack or any of that. It is absolute facts, according to Randy Erickson. Randy Erickson has declared that she can walk into federal court and prove her allegations. Well, that is exactly what she is going to have to do. Randy Erickson is going to have to come into federal court and prove every single accusation she has ever made against Craig Sawyer since 2018. And if she can't, she is in big, big trouble. So, And right now, Randy Erickson is the only person subject to this lawsuit. You're not going to get punished. Infiltrated's not going to get punished. Butterfly Mama's not going to get punished. None of these other people are going to get punished. It's all going to fall on the lap of Randy Lynn Erickson, period. Because she is the one causing all this. She is the one going around and stirring everybody up. She stirred you up, Punisher. And so that's incitement. And so everything you say is going to be used as evidence against Randy Erickson. And that's another thing, Punisher. You can't lie. For those of you who believe, you cannot lie to God. So, when the mortal lies that all of us are done here, those of us who are going upstairs are going to walk up to the big guy, and the big guy is going to ask us a bunch of questions. Like, why did you do all this stuff while you were down there? And Randy's going to be one of them. And so, God will determine who gets punished and who doesn't. So, she did not stir you up at all. Well, then why do you make the statements you do on the internet? I mean, you've agreed with things that she and Tim said. So what do you base that on? You base it on information that Tim has provided and that she has provided, and there you are putting out there defamation, false statements. That's incitement. That is evidence that Craig can use to show the court that her lies have an effect. That, and it's in these documents that I put up, that Randy Erickson has caused people like you to make false statements about him. And that's civil liability to Randy. And Randy can be cited by a jury to pay Craig Sawyer for that damage. That's the whole point of this. So you are basically helping, by stating what you state, you are helping Craig Sawyer. You are giving Craig Sawyer the evidence that he needs to prevail over Randy Lynn Erickson. Now, publisher, go ahead and support Randy. Pray to Randy, swear an oath of support to Randy. I don't care. All I'm saying is, regardless of what I say or anybody else says, that anything you repeat that Randy has said is evidence that Craig Sawyer can use against Randy Erickson. You don't seem to get over that. Keep saying these things about Craig. All this defamatory stuff about Craig. Because you're just helping Craig prevail in this lawsuit. Simple as that. I don't care if you follow Tim or not. It's not, you seem to have it in my head, or your head, that I want to disband Tim, that I want to get Tim off the air. Well, actually, it's partly true. I would like to get Tim off the air. What I want, personally, is for Tim Holmset to take down every single thing he has written and published about me. Period. That's all I want. I don't care about all these crackpot theories that he's putting out there. I don't care about his little war with General Flynn or Hillary Clinton or any of these other people. All I'm concerned with is the lies and defamation he has said about me. Period. People don't seem to comprehend that. I don't know if they have a problem with their hearing or they have a problem with the English language, but that's it. So, maybe record this portion of my statement and just put it in a loop until it gets through that thick head of yours. I don't care about anybody's support of Tim Homseth. I care about what Tim Homseth has said about me. Period. End of story. I am covering this case because it is a federal case. It's filed in federal district court, and it pertains to someone who claims to be in touch with a former First Lady of the United States and a former President of the United States, and claims to be all these things, who has now been sued by a major figure, both in the military and elsewhere. Prisoner. Publisher. Again, I just went through this with somebody in my comments. I said that I was not going to talk to Timothy about Timothy on my primary channel unless it has to do with a matter of public interest. This is what's happened. This is a federal lawsuit filed in a United States federal court, not in a state court, not in a county court, not in a city court, but in federal court. It is filed by a person who is a former military veteran. He is a celebrity. He is filing this against a woman who claims time and again that she is a member of a task force, and that task force makes reports to the federal government. That makes her a matter of public interest. Now do you understand? Now, Timothy Charles Homseth has declared himself third in line to the president, or former president of the United States. He has made declarations of solving major high-profile cases. That makes him a public figure. That makes his actions a matter of public interest. So there. As far as all this other hokey stuff, no, I am going to cut back on talking about him on this channel. Now, it is being simulcast, but the Task Force for Truth channel is where I will be confining any remarks about Timothy Charles Homseth. So, there you go. Write it down, put it up on your bulletin board or something so that you don't forget. This case that was just filed today is a matter of public interest. Any 2-year-old would understand that. And it's people's right to know this kind of thing. Now there's 21 people here. It's not like I'm getting on CNN or HLN and reaching 1 million or 2 million people. I'm reaching 21 people, plus anybody that watches this recording. And why are you so concerned about this tiny little channel talking about Tim Homseth? Outside this ring of 21 people, I'm not going to have that any effect. There's nothing this channel is going to do as far as Tim Homseth is concerned, and it certainly isn't going to have anything to do with Randy Erickson. I'm a pebble in the sand in the vast world of the internet. Now, Tim Homseth has thousands of people over there on BitChute. They brag about it all the time. Oh, we got thousands of people here, thousands of people here, and all Mert has is this tiny little channel over here in the cave somewhere. So I don't understand, Punisher, what your concern is about this channel, because it has absolutely no... Investigative journalists can be celebrities, Punisher. Again, to get it through your thick head, he claims to be third in line to the former president of the United States. He claims to be in direct contact with Melania Trump. That makes him a celebrity. End of story. If you can't comprehend that, I don't know. There's no hope for you, because you apparently don't understand what a celebrity is. You may want to look it up on YouTube or something, or Google or something. But the fact of the matter is, There you go. 35,000 people on BitChute. That's a lot of people. So why are you so concerned with my 17 people here in this chat? I've got 1,066 subscribers to this channel, but out of that 1,066, 17 of them are here on this channel, and you're one of them. I have no influence with anyone. Zero. You know, I had what, 22, 23 people at the peak of this, and it's dropping as time goes on. You know, so Punisher, I don't know what your concern is. I don't know what Infiltrated's concern is. I don't know what anybody's concern is. I'm probably one of the smallest channels on YouTube. And so, what the hell? You know, Timmy's got his 34,000 people over there. They ain't going anywhere. He gets new subscribers every day. So he ain't got nothing to worry about from me. You know, for whatever reason, Tim Homeseth and you are terrified of this channel. We are the same person. So are you saying that you're Tim Homeseth? You know, are you saying that you're Tim Homeseth and you're coming in here under a false name? You know, what do you mean by you're the same person? No, it is the truth, Punisher. And we're going to find that out in court with this case right here. Because what Randy has been accusing Craig Sawyer of, he's been accusing Kim Picazio of, Robert Hammer, me, and a whole bunch of other people. And so this court case, one way or another, is going to put that to bed. And really? Then why is Infiltrated for Truth over on Telegram saying that you're an impersonator? Yeah, so if you're the same person, then why are you using two different names? It's, you know, I don't understand this with people. But fine, if you want to say you're the same, I don't care. But that just makes it easier because Craig Sawyer knows the identity of one of you. And so it'll be that much easier to bring you into court. First of all, it's only one M. It's Hamer. But doesn't matter. But what Randy Erickson says about Bob Hammer is false. He is not that person from St. Augustine. You know, Randy Erickson is claiming that Robert Hammer is a dead guy. And that's going to be brought out in court. Oh, okay. Whatever. Well, I explained it earlier. I says any potential witness will be found out. And so, you know, there are no secrets on the internet. And besides that, Punisher, there's a lot of investigating going on by the federal government and also with the JOSOC. Because people are making claims that they're affiliated with the Joint Special Operations Command who are not. So that is under investigation. The Judge Advocate General is conducting an investigation. The Canadian authorities are conducting an investigation based on information they've received. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. And, you know, Yeah, I'm sure you know about YouTube accounts. There's all kinds of fake accounts running around right now. And like that's been said, that there's a lot of impersonating going on. And I got into this because I have been impersonated, and all the negative information out there that Tim used to get against me came from impersonators. And, you know, if it ever gets to be my turn, a lot of shit's going to be hitting the fan. Um, you know, and, but you can't bleed blood out of a rock. Tim Holmes says it's as poor as a church mouse, and you know Randy Erickson's the only reason he's able to do anything, and that may be coming to a quick end. So he's going to have to find another financial source um, to get by. But you know, as far as Punisher's concerned, I don't care what he or she believes. I really don't give a damn. Um, I've said this 100 times. I care about what Tim Holmes says about me. Period. All else really doesn't matter. This situation with um, this lawsuit over here is a matter of public interest. It's a federal case. I follow selected federal cases, and I'm following this one, whichever direction it goes. If Craig wins, fine. If Randy wins, fine. You know, it'll be up to a jury. Well, I say you got a beef with the CBC. I don't know. But, you know, I don't care about your antics with the CBC, your position on vaccines, which I find strange for somebody in the medical profession, but oh well. But anyway, the case is moving forward. We're going to have to wait for the next shoe to drop. Now, I will be coming back on Saturday. If there is any, you know, for general discussion, updates about uh, things in the news and so forth. And I will be, you know, if something of interest comes up on Friday, I will be down on the other channel. I will not be doing a simulcast on this channel, and unless it's again a matter of public interest. But Saturday will be my normal mainstream discussion channel, and then Sunday I may or may not do another live stream. I don't know. I never know these things until we get to that point. But at any rate, uh, we'll see where we go with this lawsuit that Greg Sawyer's initiated. I'll be watching the filings as they come into court, and we'll see where it goes. And so, time to close out. Wheels up at 6 in the morning here, Eastern Time, so I got to get ready for that. So please like, subscribe, share, and hit the notification button. And stay tuned as we go forward with this new set of federal cases. Until then, this is William K. Murtaugh, Murtwitnessone. Have a good one, and good night, all.